originally wanted to release this video tomorrow, that right there being on Tuesday, but now with this little bit of breaking news, I think that it's best to go ahead and release the follow-up to the video that I released at 5 o'clock. That video, of course, was about Disney, but now we got to talk about ESPN because ESPN obviously falls under that, how do I say this? They obviously fall under that blanket that Disney has cloaked over them. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video because apparently ESPN is now asking Major League Baseball, the NFL, and the NBA to actually invest in their company by simply buying pieces of their company. Yeah, it seems to me like a desperate ploy to stay alive. I remember it was 2020. It was during the COVID. And I remember the gym right down the road from me. Not the one that I go to, but the one that I went to during COVID. They stayed open. Of course, I eventually left that gym for different reasons and went back to the original one that I was paying the $30 fee, $30 a month for. Of course, the one that I was going to during COVID was actually charging, I think, right around $60 a month, and I think I had some additional cash. I just went ahead and paid for like a 6-month membership outright until things, of course, open back on up. I figured at the time that if I, the other gym opened back up, I figured that, it's okay. Even if things don't happen, I could just switch to cardio, start doing CrossFit in my house, that type of thing there, because I had been doing it for about 8 weeks until I realized this gym was open. I was having a conversation with a guy, and while I was working out, I remember looking at him and saying, you know what, man, they're going to continue to pump this Aaron Rodgers narrative up so damn much because of all the controversies that were going on in Green Bay at that time, that eventually people were going to start to figure out that ESPN, for the most part, is just entertainment. They're not there to report on sports. And, of course, the whole politics and the wokeness stuff, which many people, for whatever reason, didn't figure out that that was going on until the COVID, when they were actually forced to sit inside their house and actually look at everything that was going on. By that, I mean the race-pumping narrative, all the white man bad, all the wokeness stuff, and, of course, the NBA with the whole Black Lives Matter logo on the court in Orlando during the NBA playoffs. Now, these guys blamed the drop in ratings on everything but their own messaging. Of course, the NBA's commissioner, Adam Silver, would eventually come out and say no more politics. However, ESPN continued to pump the woke narrative. They continue to pump it like crazy. Personalities like, say, Max Kellerman, who was actually blacker than Stephen A. Smith. And after a while, and not just Max Kellerman, but obviously Ryan Clark, you have the godfather of woke himself, Jalen Rose. And by the way, all these people got laid off, with the exception of Stephen A. Smith. Now, in the past couple of years, what has happened is that not only have people figured out that it's entertainment, not only have people figured out that it's political, but quite frankly, it's insufferable. Also, to go on top of this, it's original content, and by original content, I mean things like, say, E60 and 30 for 30. They're not exactly what we call good. Also, something else, too, if you want to watch sports documentaries, you can now go to Netflix because Netflix has got this thing called The Quarterback. And, of course, they had the Aaron Hernandez story. And what else did they have? What else did they have? Oh, yeah, that's right. The Last Dance, which, by the way, was on ESPN, is now on Netflix. You guys kind of pick up on a bit of a pattern here. The reason why I'm saying this is because obviously ESPN at one point in time used to do sports documentaries and sports stories to go along with their regular coverage. Now it's just ESPN First Take, or Woke Take as I like to call it, and it's primarily just Stephen A. Smith speaking in an echo chamber to whatever guest they have out there to basically lay down for him. I went ahead and explained in a previous video why it was that I think that Keyshawn Johnson was let go, seeing how he was the one Cowboys fan that was on the network that actually appeared to have a bit of a brain, and that they chose to leave Marcus Spears there, the one that apparently does not have one swagger, so obviously he can get beat up by Stephen A. Smith anytime a conversation occurs about the Dallas Cowboys. Which really the smart thing would just have been to, I don't know, maybe just keep Michael Irvin there, seeing how it is that Michael Irvin was much, much more likable, is a much, much more likable person. I know I'm kind of stumbling on my words here, but the thing is this right here. When I see that the ESPN, who, by the way, just laid off a bunch of employees, a bunch of personalities, is now asking for the NFL to invest. What else? They're also asking not only for the NFL to invest in them, but they're also asking for MLB to do it, which, by the way, ESPN very, very rarely, if any, has any baseball games. And they've been worried that they're going to lose the NBA for quite a long time. But now we get to this situation where they're actually asking these people to buy parts of their company and actually invest in them. ESPN Classic got shut down a long time ago. ESPN, for the most part, has pulled their original content. It's now on Disney Plus. And as I spoke earlier today about the situation involving Disney selling off their assets, there are many people out there who believe that Disney Plus will not survive in the next year. It's not just Disney Plus, it's also Netflix and Hulu. You know, these companies don't seem to realize that when they put out woke crap. By the way, Netflix did at one point in time at least fight back on it. Of course, it was always over the Dave Chappelle controversies, but they at least fought back against their woke employees. And Netflix, while not great, is not entirely terrible. And yet Disney Plus, while they put all this woke garbage on their streaming service, a lot of people, of course, have seen what the hell was going on. And as I talked about in the video at 5, yeah, Disney is about to experience a lot of problems, mostly due to the fact that they chose to take on Lucasfilm, Marvel, now 20th Century Fox, and now they're inheriting those companies' assets, and they realize that they cannot, handle the problems that those companies were actually bringing to the table with them, not to mention the fact that they've gone out of their way to completely piss off each subsidiary's main fan bases, i.e., for example, Lucasfilm. If you're a fan of Lucasfilm, chances are you are a fan of Star Wars. Obviously, Star Wars fans did not like what Disney did to their product. Also, that brings in Marvel. A lot of Marvel fans out there do not like what Disney has done to Marvel. That type of stuff there. And now ESPN, they're going through a transitional period where they now have to physically ask the sports world to invest in them, to actually take a chunk of the actual property itself. I don't know about you guys, but it seems to me like a desperate attempt for ESPN to literally go right back to sports and sports alone. I don't know how many of you guys who watch this channel are viewers of the NFL Network, but the NFL Network, from time to time, they'll play old games, edited games, like, say, 2014 NFC Championship game between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers, or maybe the infamous catch game that, by the way, involves my team and those Cowboys I talked about earlier, the ones that the Cowboys really and truly don't like to talk about, the one where they keep on saying Des called it, even though I personally, as a Packers fan, actually agreed that he did. But obviously the head coach of our team, Mike McCarthy, obviously at that time understood the rule. It was the Calvin Johnson rule. I don't think I need to go too far into it, but stuff like that there. However, the only people who watch those products or watch those games are diehards. Now, let me say this really quick to kind of help you guys help, throw this out here if maybe you guys can relate to this. You know the company, the television station like TBS, for example, or say the USA Network or even FX. They'll buy a certain product, like, say, Seinfeld or Friends or whatever. And by the way, you can't use Seinfeld in any of these clips, which, by the way, I would love to do that, but you always get copyright claims, and The Simpsons too. They'll buy these television shows, or they'll get the rights to these television shows, and then they'll air those television shows in rerun format. They typically tend to do very, very well, and people typically tend to watch them. However, as of late, you might notice on your Netflix subscription that Seinfeld and Friends are currently on Netflix. Me personally, I never really cared for Friends. I thought Seinfeld, for the most part, was just entertainment. It was okay, funny episodes every now and again. My thing was always The Simpsons and South Park. Speaking of South Park, you can watch South Park episodes on Max. It makes you wonder if TV as a whole is not dead. It makes you wonder if it's dying. Well, going back to that conversation that I had with the guy in the gym, there's a little thing that I left out. I didn't just say that I felt that people would figure out that it was purely entertainment. I said that true sports fans, after a while, would just simply cut it off. They've already been cutting it off ever since the whole Colin Kaepernick ordeal, and since ESPN has chosen to lean into the whole wokeness thing, obviously they've never really and truly recovered. They've slowly but surely declined. Many people love to trace this back to the, Skip Bayless leaving ESPN after being on Cold Pizza with Stephen A. Smith. A lot of people love to contribute with that. Stephen A. does not have an actual partner to debate, which, by the way, Stephen A. is obviously the face of that brand, the face of that franchise. And I've been saying for a while that, look, it's very, very possible that they could lose him come next year in contract negotiations now that he has his own channel and that he can make money elsewhere. And right now they want to bring in Shannon Sharp, or at least Stephen A. Smith is wanting to bring in Shannon Sharp, seeing how he's no longer at Fox Sports. It makes me wonder if ESPN is not going to have another problem. That problem is that now that Pat McAfee is making so much money, and now that Troy Aikman is getting so much money to be there, now that Joe Buck is making so much money for just one appearance a week, it makes me wonder exactly how much money Stephen A. Smith is going to negotiate, seeing how he is pretty much the face of that franchise. So ESPN right now is they're very, very much in a desperate position to where they have to now ask the sports world to reinvest in their product. So that way they can go back to being just good old-fashioned sports, which, by the way, is what they should be doing. The conversation, by the way, did not mention everything that I just said. Obviously, a lot of this stuff right here that I'm talking about was a conversation I had in 2020. But you guys can see that ESPN, a lot like Disney, is going through the same cut process, which, by the way, Disney owns ESPN. But here's the thing that I left out. Here's the one thing that I left out. The thing that's taken me so long to get to. I said to this guy, and then I said it again in the gym that I normally go to another young guy, because when you go to the gym, you work out, you're at that spot where you've got the rope and you're doing tricep pull downs or press downs or rocking rows or face pulls and sometimes pull ups and good old fashioned straight bag pull downs to kind of work those lats and everything. I said, and I've continued this for a very long time, that at some point in time, ESPN will cease to be as a company. Now, why is that the case? Why will ESPN eventually cease to be as a company? Because when they leaned into politics and when they leaned into wokeness, it obviously, like a part of Disney's brand, it obviously costed them money. It obviously costed them revenue. They put a lot of that stuff into their original content. Like I want to say that one of the last E60s or 30 for 30s that they did was on Bubba Wallace. You remember Bubba Wallace? This guy here?
So silent on that chat 2 weeks earlier.
Oh, I still don't forget. But this moment was still important. You can let down your guard a little bit, but I don't forget the ones that were silent.
Guy who said that there was a noose in the garage when in reality the noose was just the pulley. It was about that big. My uncle has one of those in his shop when he does maintenance on his vehicle. I got another family member who does the exact same thing. I mean, I got mechanics in my family who all have one of those in their shop. It's not a noose. It's just a little yellow piece of rope or a blue piece of rope that you just pull down to help friggin' open the damn shop door. I'm not a mechanic, but they are. I'm really not that great at the lingo. But I can change my tires and I can change my oil, and obviously I can identify problems with the vehicle. Not that great. Oh, and I can change a battery too. I can do at least a few things to protect myself, to get myself by, but I'm not a mechanic. Just go ahead and throw that out there. You guys want to take my man card away from me or make me less of a man, go right ahead, but I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm just not much of a mechanic. But back on topic. Here's the thing. Fact of the matter is that ESPN put themselves in this situation, and now due to digital media, including YouTube, you don't have to go watch sports stories on ESPN. You can now go to streaming. Let me give you guys a great example, okay? When this channel right here first started, it was initially a sports channel. I ended up having a lot more social issue takes because at the time, a lot of things were going on. It was 2020, so I leaned more into social commentary. I probably posted way too many videos that were social commentary related. Next thing I know, my subscribers didn't know what they were tuning into. So now that YouTube has decided to drop the requirements on everything, I decided to start creating other channels for other purposes. For example, I'm rebranding Gear Issue 33 for military stories, military history, because obviously I'm a buff there and I love talking about that stuff. Right here, I talk more about social issues, talk about social justice warriors in gaming, in pop culture, in sports. Every now and again, a pure political take, which, by the way, I'm going to be refocusing my content. And, of course, I do hope to eventually start doing video essays on the topics because I think there's a lot more grand things going on than the normal content that I normally do. Obviously, it's easier to be monetized. But one of the things I did want to do outside of a third channel, which was the character analysis channel, was create a sports channel. Originally, I wanted to create these channels and have like a Braves channel, a Packers channel, a generalized MMA channel. I wanted to do that, but obviously it did not pan out. However, the one thing that I did want to create was a sports stories channel. If you want to, there are several people out there on the platform that you can watch sports stories with. Why in the world would you be getting into this? Because I'm a different breed of animal when it comes to telling these stories. Yes, I have a very high opinion of myself when it comes to that topic. Sue me. The thing is this right here, though. You can go somewhere like, say, Flemlo Raps, for example. Flemlo does great content. KTO, Carson the Oracle, he does good content. Actual sports stories. Most of their stories, of course, are football related, but there are several channels that tell stories. I mean, you got boxing channels, you got MMA channels out there. There's a guy named Clyde who's done a few good videos on Conor McGregor and Israel Adesanya. There's also the MMA Dose who talks about, he's got a lot of good videos. You see, these sports stories can be found online, and people find them to be much, much more entertaining, and also to go on top of that, much, much more factual. Woke shows like, say, Secret Base, for example, which is definitely much, much more left-leaning, and they always tend to leave things out in the story. But that's the great thing about YouTube. You can always research things, do your research, put together a video that's much, much more thorough, because obviously ESPN has gone completely woke. Let me give you guys a great example, okay? ESPN recently at the ESPYs, they found a way to completely edit out something that Will Cain said about the U.S. women's soccer team. By the way, I'm showing you guys a video of the U.S. women's soccer team basically boo-hooing during the national anthem. Of course, some people claim that they're not, but still at the same time, though, looking at their body language, you got to ask yourself a question: did these women deserve a pay raise? Well, basically what happened was that they had Will Cain. They were showing some spliced up clips of him basically saying that, yeah, they were never, ever, ever going to be able to get paid. We didn't see it happening, but then the clips, the truth always tend to come out, and this was actually what he really said.
I think equal pay is a ridiculous concept in and of itself. Soccer, for better or worse, on the men's side, across this globe, is much more popular than the women's.
Oh, we get that argument all the time.
Nobody wants to hear or know. Tell you why it's like this. Now, there's two things, first of all. When you talk about, as Trevor Scales just laid out, the bonus difference between the men's team and the women's team, between what a winner, if it had been the U.S. men, would get in the World Cup and the women. The women got a pool, or got paid out from a pool of $30 million from the Women's World Cup. The men would draw from a pool of $400 million, okay? $400 million, $30 million. Why is that? It's because the Men's World Cup generates $6 billion in revenue. The Women's World Cup generates $131 million in revenue. If you want to talk about pay disparity, the Women's World Cup players get paid out 20% of the total revenue. The men get paid out 7%. As a percentage point, they are getting much more. The problem is, for anybody desiring equal pay, and by the way, I think equal pay is a ridiculous concept in and of itself. If the women generate more revenue, they should get paid more than the men. Don't strive for getting the same, strive for getting what you're worth. And if you're worth more, then get more. And so what I'm saying to you right now is soccer, for better or worse, on the men's side, across this globe, is much more popular than women's soccer.
The women's game had higher ratings than the men's, though. So what do you say to that?
Charlie, that's in the United States.
That was in the U.S.
And that's comparing a women's World Cup final that featured the United States against a men's World Cup final in the United States that didn't feature the U.S. team.
People don't want to watch ESPN anymore. The reason why they don't want to watch ESPN anymore is because ESPN finds a way of leaving things out. They find a way to not tell you the full truth. People are going online for these stories nowadays. People care about that there. They care about the truth. They don't want to be preached to constantly. We just want to watch a sports story. And seeing how it is that ESPN doesn't really carry sports like they used to, and now it's all sports debate, and that sports debate always has a tendency to go woke and become a bit of an echo chamber, people have gotten tired of it. So now ESPN is on their knees saying, look, we just gave Pat McAfee $100 million. We're giving Troy Aikman $14 million for one appearance a week. We're giving Joe Buck right around $20 million. We know we're going to have to give Stephen A. Smith at least $30 in his upcoming contract to even keep him interested in staying here with incentives. So now we need the NFL to invest. We need the NBA to invest. And we, quite frankly, we also need the NBA, who, by the way, I've said that the ESPN will lose, but we need the NFL, Major League Baseball, and we need all these companies to invest in us, even though ABC could carry the NBA on their own, even though Fox could carry the NFL on their own, Even though somebody could carry baseball on their own, which, by the way, they should, because ESPN shuns Major League Baseball every chance it gets. It's been doing it for a very long time. Ever since roughly 2010 or 11, they've slowly but surely phased any type of baseball highlights out. Fact of the matter is that ESPN is a dying company, and it will be dead. It will be dead and buried before 2030. Mark my words. I'll be back on this platform to tell you that ESPN is dead. They got away from their original content. They stopped doing the ESPN originals. They started pandering more to wokeness. They started pandering more to entertainment. And now the online world is actually beating them. So if you're watching this channel and you're like me and you say to yourself, wow, YouTube has just lowered the monetization requirements to 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours to get monetized, as long as you don't delete your videos, you'll be okay. If you want to make sports content, now is the time for you to break through. Because you see, the future of the entire sports world is actually with you in sports stories, factual information. You have actual channels that cover teams. If I want to look at something about the Braves, I can go to Locked On Braves. There's several content creators. If I want to look at something on the Packers, I can go to, well, not Locked On Packers. Peter Bukowski's a dumbass. Screw his woke ass. I could go to someone like Luke Beller, for example. Tom Grossi is okay. I mean, I can go to these people here to get that type of stuff. If X's and O's is something I want to look for, I'll go to Brett Coleman. But then again, at the same time, though, I haven't slowly but surely been losing my connection with sports, mostly due to the fact that, well, the politics kind of did it to me. The whole flag kneeling and all that stuff and all the wokeness just kind of made me detached from sports as a whole. That's the real truth of the matter. But seeing ESPN fall and decline and fall apart like this, and seeing them now begging people to invest in their product is quite frankly satisfying, because I know that we can now tell stories factually and accurately and actually beat the competition, which happens to be ESPN. Makes me wonder about Fox Sports. It just makes me wonder. Guys, I figured I would throw this video out here to kind of toss out there to be the second video of the day. If you guys like this content, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.